Good morning. You are the Honorable Franklin Mithika Linturi. Please take the seat. The clerk can proceed to administer the oath. The Honorable Linturi, you have a choice depending on your faith to take the Quran, the Bible, or affirm. Speak on Hansard.
I'll take the Bible.
Go ahead. You may stand.
I, Franklin Mithika Linturi, do hereby swear to testify on all matters in question and tell this committee the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
The Honorable Mithika Linturi, welcome to this committee. Most of these members are your colleagues you have worked and served with in Parliament. But that notwithstanding, they will engage you robustly on the suitability or otherwise of you as a nominee to the docket of the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture. Before we engage any further, we want to introduce the committee. It's a committee of Parliament, as you know, grounded and founded in the standing orders, in the law and in the Constitution, that places a responsibility on Parliament to conduct confirmation hearings or vetting of persons nominated by the President to hold the position of Cabinet Secretary in our Republic. You've been given the privilege of that nomination, and you have to go through this process. The committee is chaired by the Speaker of the National Assembly, yours truly here, and I'll invite members to introduce themselves, starting with the Deputy Speaker.
I am Gladys Boss, member for Uasin Gishu County, and also Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Karibu.
Aye.
My name is Opio Wandai, MP Ugunja.
My name is Owen Bayer, MP for Kilifi North.
Yeah, my name is Robert Mbui, MP for Kadhiani.
My name is Rehab Mokami, County MP Nyeri.
My name's Ferdinand Kevin Wanyonyi, Member of Parliament, Kwanza, Trans Nzoia County.
Good morning. My name is George Gitonga Murugara, Member of Parliament for Tharaka Constituency, Tharaka Nithi County. The nominee is actually my neighbor. He's also my friend. But that is not going to affect my impartiality in any way, and I will do a job for the country.
David Kosing, my name, MP Pokot South, West Pokot County.
Speaker, my name is Abdul Rahim Dawood, MP for North Imenti, Meru County, and I want to declare interest that the nominee is a friend of mine for more than 25 years, as well as being the immediate former senator for Meru and a colleague as my chairman of Meru Parliamentary Group as until last year. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mishi Mboko, MP Likoni, a member of this committee.
Good morning, Nelson Arap Koech, MP Belgut.
Good morning, everyone. Caleb Amisi, MP Saboti.
Dido Raso, MP Saku.
Abdi Shurie, MP Balambala, Garissa County.
Stephen Mule, MP Matungulu.
Naisula Lesuda, MP Samburu West.
We also have our secretariat headed by our clerk.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. My name is Sarah Kioko. I am the acting clerk of the National Assembly, and I have with me the director in charge of audit, appropriation, and other select committees, Ms. Florence Abonyo, and the deputy director, legal services, Mr. Michael Karuro, and quite a number of other staff who are assisting this committee. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So the Honorable Inturi, this being a recently qualified lawyer, you know about adversarial proceedings and non-adversarial proceedings. These proceedings are not adversarial. We are on a facts-finding mission on your suitability to hold the office to which you have been nominated, like we have done to all your other colleague nominees. We expect absolute respect, decorum, and candor in the manner in which we relate in this inquiry. We expect that you answer every question put to you through the chair, and all members have done very well and advise that all questions are also through the chair. So we limit completely any exchanges between the nominee and the members of the committee. We will also, for a start, after a few preliminaries, give you 10 minutes or less to tell us the story of your life. Who is Mythical Induri? Franklin. Your journey to where you are seated. At the end of the proceedings, we'll give you also an opportunity for 3 minutes to tell us your closing wish. Having listened to you, you have the capacity to assess how you have performed, what you want us to do with you in this regard. Now, before we start, I'll ask you a few documentations that we require. I have been told by the clerk that certain affidavits sent in by members of the public were forwarded to you to look at and respond. You did not choose to depone in any rebuttal, but you are at liberty to give answers to any questions that may be asked in relation to those affidavits. The election to depone or not to depone is entirely yours, but the committee will not prevent you from saying anything in relation to those affidavits, in rebuttal or in affirmation of the contents therein. Do you have your tax compliance certificate from KRA?
Yes, I do.
You've already forwarded to us?
Yes.
Yes, the clerks will want to see the originals to compare with what you have sent to us after we have run through the list. Do you have the clearance from the Higher Education Loans Board?
Yes, I do.
Do you have clearance with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, ASCC?
Yes, I do.
Do you have a certificate of good conduct?
Yes, I
from
do.
DCI?
Yes, I do.
From Mr. Kinoti?
Yes, I do. Of course, after his departure, I got a clearance.
It's with a light touch. I know you had running battles with Kinoti. Have you ever been charged and convicted of a criminal offense in any court of law?
I have been charged, but never convicted.
Have you ever been adversely mentioned in any parliamentary committee report?
No.
Are you a dual citizen of Kenya and any other sovereign?
No.
You have your identity card as well. You'll show the original to compare with what you sent to us. At a personal level, what is your financial net worth? Some of your finances have been in public domain.
Mr. Chairman, my financial net worth, which includes my investments in various companies in this country and other investments in circles, are to the tune of around 1.2 billion.
1.2 billion.
Yes.
Segregation or tabulation?
Mr. Speaker, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
You can use them interchangeably. Yes.
Yeah, I have listed a list of the immovable assets that I own in a page in the statement of net worth that includes properties that are developed. I've also put in a list of all the vehicles that are available for my personal use. And I've also put in the amounts of shares that I owned in various constitutions, one including the parliamentary circle, which I am a member. Mr. Speaker, I've also listed my directorship of in different companies where I'm one of the largest shareholders, which is also on page 16. So paragraph 16 from the questionnaire, and all these total to the tune of around 1.2 billion.
Good. What are your current and anticipated sources of income?
My current incomes is the money that I get out of rental income, out of business that I do, like I am a dairy farmer. I keep cows and goats. I do sukuma wiki. And Mr. Speaker, the amounts of money that I think I am expecting that to get probably in the near future is beyond 1 billion. Mr. Speaker, I have court awards that have been taxed and not been paid. And one that I'm trying to deal with is the EACC, who owes me money for wrongful prosecution. The other, Mr. Speaker, is government for failure to pay for works done. That is how what constitutes to beyond a billion shillings.
I will now invite you, Honorable Mythical Inturi, for under 10 minutes to tell us the story of your life.
Before I proceed, Mr. Chairman, if you may allow me, let me clarify that I only got one affidavit from the clerk and not two. I am willing and ready to answer to that question so that I don't get ambushed on something that was not presented to me. I only got one from Transparency International.
Go ahead. I also clarify, the clerk had mentioned affidavits, but now she says that is the only affidavit that was received. The one from Transparency International. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker.
Does the clerk want something from you?
Yeah, but there's a document I want to refer you to so that when it comes around, probably you may be able to guide me on how to proceed on these particular questions, which I'm supposed to give satisfactory answers to.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, having been a member of Parliament and having understood our practice, I want you to guide me on how I need to proceed in answering questions where I may end up discussing matters that are before courts for determination. And Mr. Speaker, when I see, and I'm so happy, but regret at the same time because of that sub judice rule, probably I may not be able to explain to this country properly who Mythical Inturi is. I want to bring to your attention and to tell the country.
Honorable Mythical Inturi, you are not at liberty to anticipate any questions. You only answer questions that will be asked to you by the members. What I've invited you to do, and I'm sure I've been watching some of the proceedings from your colleagues, is who is Mythical Inturi? I was born here, I grew up here, I went to school here, I have done this in my life, I've encountered some obstacles, I have surmounted them or not, and I have been given the privilege to be what I am today. Something like that.
I'm guided.
So don't anticipate any questions. The questions will be asked by these members to you. And when they're asked, you are not entitled also to frame your own questions and answer them. You'll answer the questions that will be asked only.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Accordingly guided.
Yes.
And I think, Mr. Speaker, my life began back in the late 1969, because that is when I was born, in a village called Iriaki in Igembe South constituency, formerly known Igembe North, Igembe district. Mr. Speaker, I was born from a very humble family, and what I remember most is when I was growing up and hunting cows or goats in a forest called Ndune near my home, when I was arrested by the chief in around 1978 to take me to school. That time, Mr. Speaker, the test that was used to check anybody that had grown of age to get to school was to lift your hand on top of your hand and see whether you would be able to touch the other side of your ear. That's when I went to Amwamba Primary School, and for around 8 years I went to, again, Mr. Speaker, to Egembe Secondary School. And the other thing that also makes me remember my first day in school, Mr. Speaker, and because of that I'm beginning, is when we were admitted and we were required to carry shoes and other items that we would use in school. Was that I went to school, my shoes in the box, and carrying the box on my hand to school, and everybody was laughing at me because they couldn't understand why I had not put on the shoes and had to carry the shoes in the box. Thereafter, I stayed there, Mr. Speaker, and after Form 4, I also went to Meru Technical School, and Mr. Speaker, thereafter, after finishing Meru Technical School, my father thought then I should have stayed at home to assist him in his coffee farm, because I'm from a family of 8, and then he required to spend some of his little earnings to educate my brothers and sisters. I became difficult after attending to my father's tea farm and coffee for some time, and then decided to rebel and go to look for something else to do, and that's how I left that home with only 30 shillings, without any clothes in a bag, without knowing where I would sleep. And my hustling life started from there. I made friends with many that I remember would be my role models. And during the course of life, I got interested in doing business here and there, and that's when I started business. I first of all got very interested in pursuing insurance, and I was the founder member of Access Insurance. Mr. Speaker, as I was doing business, I met very many people who inspired me in different ways, and some of the people I met and actually who inspired me to think about the politics and public service were the likes of the late Kennedy Matiba, Kina Muite, Raila Odinga, and even the late Akina Ramogi. The late Kabando Wafula Mbuke and I were the first young boys, and Antai Wankuraru, who we were there, and the boys of the Safina party, and the late the late Liki was the Secretary General. The first time I got charged in court, Mr. Speaker, was around that time, the year 2002, when I was alleged to have, and Mporo Abori, who is also my friend, we are very close, and we were charged with the offense that time. I think the charge was defective, of trying, because we had learned prayers, and we it was construed that we were praying for the death of the president then. So we were charged for incitement. The matters went to court. We were lucky that we couldn't afford legal fees to pay lawyers, and I thank Muturi Kigano and Muite, because these are the people that came to our rescue. We were acquitted. That is when I realized how important it was to have good friends. From there, Mr. Speaker, when we got interested.
Finish up in 2 minutes. You've already done your 10.
I got interested in running for a parliamentary position, and I first of all ran under Safina ticket. I lost. The next election, I ran on Found People. I lost, and then in the year 2007, I ran on a Kano ticket, and I was elected as a member of parliament for Igembe South, and from that time I have been a member of parliament for 3 terms consecutively until last election, when I decided to run as governor for Meru, and lost to the current governor. And Mr. Speaker, thereafter, in the wisdom of the current president, who I thank, decided to nominate me as candidate, as nominee for the position of CS Agriculture. And Mr. Speaker, that's why I'm here. Before this honorable committee, ready to answer any question that may arise.
Excellent. Thank you, Honorable Lindori. We'll now open the floor to members to ask you questions. We advise that we'll take them in batches of 4. And then you can answer them, and we go to another batch of 4. We allow members to seek clarifications where you are not clear. And even those who have asked when there's something burning, we give them an opportunity for a second bite. I'll start with the Deputy Speaker.
Good morning and congratulations, Honorable Linturi, on your nomination as Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Livestock Development. As you know, that is a docket that is the people of Western Gishu County are immensely interested. As you know, agriculture is the largest sector of the Kenyan economy and the first pillar of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. I'm sure you also know that agriculture has the highest employment multiplier effect. And this is a question that was asked of me to ask you by my 25-year-old son, who is a farmer. He says the average age of the farmers in Kenya is 65, yet the highest unemployed people are the young people. So the question is, what are your plans to ensure that farming becomes profitable and that the farmers are assured of predictable income so that you can capture these young people who are unemployed? The other question is, how do you plan to assist the creation of jobs within the agriculture sector to address the high level of unemployment in the country which afflicts the youth? Thank you.
The Honorable Majority Leader, Ichungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. For the record, my name is Kimani Ichungwa, MP Kikuyu. Honorable Linturi, as the Deputy Speaker has indicated, and I'm sure you're aware that agriculture forms one of the core pillars. It's actually the first pillar in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. And you're aware, I'm sure you know that it is one of the sectors that has the highest employment multiplier effect, and probably that's why the Honorable Shole is asking what plans you have to ensure that agriculture becomes profitable and creates jobs for millions of Kenyans who have no jobs. But also, I would want to hear what are your plans, if approved as Minister for Agriculture, to dismantle the monopolistic cartels that have made agriculture not profitable to the majority of farmers, and especially in the dairy sector. I would want to hear what plans you have to make sure that you dismantle those monopolistic cartels to make sure that our dairy farmers are able to earn a decent living out of their agricultural endeavors. To Honorable Inturi, you have said you were arrested by a chief at a very young age to be taken to school. And as fate would be, up to very recently, we've seen you being arrested. And I heard you also arrested during the Kanu days and charged with incitement to violence. Maybe Mr. Speaker would need to declare interest, because Honorable Inturi, we have worked together in UDA and in the campaigns. And I may be privy to information that contributed to his arrest. I don't know whether Honorable Inturi, you would find it proper, because there is already the affidavit that has been filed by Transparency International that touches on a very serious crime. And I do know the circumstances, because you had shared with me and a group of us prior to your arrest the circumstances around the issues that have been raised there. Maybe it would be only proper that you share that information with the committee on the circumstances that led to your arrest, whether you are the villain or the victim, and clarify that issue. To Honorable Linturi, I see that you have attached a degree.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, Chair. We are also listening very keenly to the majority leader's questions, but he's not coming out clearly. We would also like to get the benefit of what exactly he's asking. So when you're talking about a situation, maybe you can give us which situation, because the nominee has been arrested severally, not once or twice.
So which arrest are you referring to, the Honorable Chungwa? The first one was really not an arrest by the chief. The chief abducted him and took him to school. I think it's just a question of using the wrong language. He was captured by the chief while looking after cattle and taken to school. Isn't that so? That's what you meant?
Yes.
Yes. But the rest are arrests by different agencies.
I think definitely, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Mbuyu should be aware, of course, that the first one, I think, it is his description of arrest, and he has explained the second one. And the Honorable Speaker also did indicate that the Honorable Inturi has had some run-ins with DCI Kinoti, and that is the incident that I'm referring to, because he did share with me or a group of us at the time we were being tormented by the former regime. In fact, Honorable Speaker, is that just that we were sharing information that had come to our attention, that a number of us were targeted for arrests and kidnappings and those sort of things. And the Honorable Linturi happened to share with us an incident that had happened to him, and that was long before his arrest, and that's why I'm asking, because it's information that he knows, and that's what I was asking. Maybe it would help in the issue that has been petitioned on by Transparency International. Lastly, Honorable Inturi, you have attached a degree from the University of Nairobi for a Bachelor of Laws that you graduated in December, 21st day of December in the year 2018. And I also know that at the time, I think you indicated you wanted to run for governor. The same DCI Kinoti had attempted to either investigate or charge you on some degree certificate that he said was fake. Could it be this degree certificate that you have put here in the file? Maybe you can also clarify whether this is a degree that was under investigations by DCI Kinoti. Thank you.
Wandai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Linturi and I served in the 11th Parliament in the National Assembly, so we know each other. Mr. Honorable Linturi, you know, as public officers, indeed as state officers, your life becomes a matter of public interest. And I will pick it up from where the Honorable Inchungwa has left. Because I've looked at your CV, which is in the file, and it shows that you clearly have only one degree, which is Bachelor of Laws, second-class honors, upper division, attained in 2018 from the University of Nairobi. And yet again, it is in public domain. As a public officer, you know, we're under scrutiny. That at some point there you had an issue with the University of Nairobi concerning some degree. Indeed, the university went ahead to, I think, they register you or strike your name out of the roll of graduates on account of some forgeries or alleged forgeries. In fact, the matter was taken up by the EACC. I don't know what became of the investigations. So, just to be clear, so that this can be rested once and for all. Do you have only one degree from the University of Nairobi, which is a Bachelor's of Law? Did you present some other degree to the University of Nairobi for admission to this course? Did you ever get a Bachelor of Commerce degree from an Indian university? These were subjects of speculation at the time of the investigations. Two is that on the 28th of April 2021, you were arrested by the DCI. 28th April 2021, or thereabout. You were arrested by the DCI for allegedly using forged signatures to secure some Kenya shillings 530 million loan. What became of this matter? Because I never heard of it again thereafter. Then, when the then, or the current, if it may be true, CS for Interior, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, when he appeared before a Senate committee, if I may recall, he made some very disturbing allegations against you, which again is in public domain. That as director of Articon Limited, alongside one Emily Wantai, you forged company documents to facilitate the borrowing of another Kenya's personal loan of Kenya shillings 100 million without the consent of another shareholder or co-shareholder going by the name Kipchumba Ngetich, who was subsequently again fired from the company for refusing to play ball. Those are the words of Dr. Matiang'i. I'm just paraphrasing him. You may want to shed some light on this, even as you seek to be approved to occupy this very high office. Finally, and the Honorable Chungwa has touched on it, the affidavit by one Sheila Masindi, who is the Executive Director of Transparency International, drawn on the 14th of October 2022. It is also again raising very disturbing issues. One, she of course alleges that you were arrested and charged with the offense of attempted rape on the 30th of January 2021. She goes ahead to say that the matter was eventually dropped. Okay? But the charge raised, those are her words, the charge raised serious issues on your integrity. Kindly comment, make a comment on the same. Thanks.
I think those are sufficiently weighty, quite a mouthful. I would allow you to answer those three before we take some more. Starting with the Deputy Speaker, but you can choose to start from the tail end or the top.
Let me, Mr. Speaker, start from the bottom up. So I'll start by answering Mheshimiwa Wandai. And Mr. Speaker, when in my opening remarks, there is an issue that I raised on sub judice, and I will do my best to answer so that I do not touch on the issues that are before court for determination. Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether this document is with you, and I want to answer the issue, the matter on the affidavit of Mberu on the withdrawal or the issue of the attempted rape that he's talking about. And that is indeed the issue that Mheshimiwa Ichung'wa was trying or sharing, because even before this happened, and shared with my very close friends. Mr. Speaker, I'm an open book. In fact, those that write and say I've litany of cases is an understatement. As I sit here, I have 35 cases in court as I am sitting here. 35. And these 35...
Of a civil nature or criminal nature?
They are civil, Mr. Speaker. I have no criminal case in any court in this country. And I'm saying the only criminal case that I had in court is a case between the Republic and I, where the complainant was buried. And it's, I think, since everybody knows the kind of band relationship that I had with the NDCI, and my political persuasion that, or the political position I've taken in the last general election, or since the handshake, Mr. Speaker, I was the complainant. I was the complainant in this case because this was a case of abduction, Mr. Speaker. And it's a case where people wanted to extort money from me, and I will share the affidavit by Mberu herself, where she's saying that she has reconciled her conscience and she has reflected on the facts and the circumstances relating to this complaint, and she has decided on her own volition to withdraw. Mr. Speaker, the DCI himself decided that Medika must be turned into a victim. It is just last week when the DCI officers came to my office and even brought me the cash bill and the money that they had recovered from the abductors, because immediately I was abducted and I was released after giving 200,000 shillings and they were asking for 1 million shillings. I reported the matter at Nanyuki DCI offices. The record is there, Mr. Speaker. And I remember I was with you. I don't know whether I shared, Mr. Speaker, when we were there. In Diani, Mr. Speaker, when we were in the Senate committee in Diani in last year, but one, where I was asking whether I would get permission to go to Nanyuki to record a statement to this effect so that these abductors would have been taken to court.
But I missed the Diani meeting.
2 years ago, Mr. Speaker, the Committee of National Security, we had a meeting in Diani. That is the time.
The committee with you, but
Yes.
I was not in Diani.
Yeah?
I was a member of the committee with you, I agree, but I was not in Diani.
Yeah, that's where we were. I'm saying the time we were in Diani as a committee. Yes, I was sharing it with the committee, with our chairman.
Yes.
So this is the time when I was required in Nanyuki to do a statement for them to appear before court. Because I was traumatized, immediately they were arrested. And since I didn't make, it is the DCI himself who ordered the farm be transferred from Nanyuki to Nairobi, instructed the DCI then Mr. Muridi. And when this matter came here, people were, other officers were picked, were asked to do different statements. My statements were torn, and they fixed me, framed me as the victim, and that's how I ended up in court. This affidavit from Beryl and Oduor, when she decided to withdraw, has given a condition, and because he was cross-examined by the magistrate, and I've put the ruling from the magistrate here, Mr. Speaker, and which I will be willing to share, that her condition was that the person, I was required to withdraw the extortion complaint I had launched against her and the friends at the Nanyuki. That is what happened, Mr. Speaker. I was framed. The idea was to embarrass me, to demean me.
Making reference to the affidavit, just who is the deponent of that affidavit?
He is a complainant, Beryl Onduor.
Beryl?
Beryl Onduor.
Oduor.
Yes.
Beryl Oduor.
Yes, it's called Beryl Akoth Owondo, sorry. Beryl Akoth.
Mr. Speaker, can we get copies of that document?
Yes.
And even as I don't know, as he continues.
So next.
Yes.
Yeah, as he continues, maybe to just clarify clearly where the charges have been dropped within the meaning of Article 157, sub-article I think 8, or there's simply an application to withdraw or to have them dropped.
Mr. Speaker, the application to withdraw this matter was done by the complainant herself. So an affidavit, and as you know, you are aware, that the DPP must agree to the withdrawal, sent a letter to the DPP, attached an affidavit to the DPP, and the DPP went to court to seek concurrence from the court on whether the matter should be withdrawn or not. That happened, and Akoth Beryl testified before a magistrate. She was cross-examined, and the magistrate and nothing else other than to assent to a request to withdraw the matter. The ruling from the magistrate is attached to the affidavit of Beryl and Rora. I did not initiate. The only thing that was of a requirement from them was that I was required to withdraw the extortion complaint that I found within DCI in Nanyuki. That's how the matter was withdrawn. It was not the DPP who decided to do it, but it was moved by the complainant to withdraw the matter.
And did you withdraw also your complaint then?
To date,
on extortion?
To date, Mr. Chairman, I have not. I have not withdrawn, but I can also tell this committee, I have fought so many cases and I don't think I have the energy. I want to frame my mind, given the opportunity, to work for this country. I must also let it go. I must forget the pain, the persecution that I've gone through and I have left to the conscience of all my persecutors and gone to deal with them, because there are many, as I will continue trying to explain, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you also raised.
Speaker, thank you. I just wanted to ask what you just asked, whether he has withdrawn. But maybe in relation to that, have you been able to establish, other than the complainant in that case, because there are also men who are involved, whether these particular people who are involved were DCI officers? Because why I said I was privy to information, Honorable Speaker, is because I had the same sort of incident with the Honorable Linturi when criminals poisoned people in Kikuyu, and DCI Kinoti did exactly the same thing he did with this case. Turned around the case, recalled the file from Kikuyu when we adduced evidence to the Kikuyu DCI offices that indeed the people who were involved in poisoning of people in Kikuyu were DCI officers. And I'm asking that because would you be aware whether the other men may have been DCI officers?
Mr. Speaker, probably I may want to pursue that once there is the overhaul of the DCI's office, the overhaul of the staff at the DCI offices.
Now the question is very simple. Were DCI officers involved in what you are calling a frame-up? If they were, yes. If they were not, no.
Mr. Speaker, I may want to imagine that they must have been, because calling for a file for an offense that took place in Nanyuki, bringing it to Nairobi, assigning it to other officers, and then turning me to a victim when I was the complainant, then it cannot...
Turning into the villain, the accused, not the victim.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happened, Mr. Speaker. And if I may proceed, because
Mr. Speaker, even as it continues again,
yes,
maybe because now so many issues have been raised and the names have been dropped, is it possible for Honorable Inturi to just explain to us how the abduction took place? Very, very brief.
I'm going forward, Honorable Linduri. I did advise you, only answer questions as they are asked. You will be very safe that way.
Mr. Speaker, I think this happened a long time ago, and some things are not very good to remember because they remind you of those bad memories. Probably when you suffer an abduction is when you may be able to really think, and why it's also even necessary to take people through counseling. It is not an easy thing, and especially when the hand of government agencies is involved. Mr. Speaker, let me answer the issue of the 530 million loan that he's talking about.
He alleged two things.
Yes.
You forged documents to get 530 million, then you forged other documents to get 100 million. So if you can answer those, it will help.
Mr. Speaker, I also invite you to a document that I will share with you, and a judgment that was given by Justice Ongud Judge in petition number E068 of 2021. And I need to remind or to inform this committee, which thanks I also give to the Second Senate. I think it is the Second Senate of the Republic of Kenya, because one of the things that I was arrested for, the allegations I was being arrested for when we were to vote for the BBI are these allegations that Wandai is raising. Mr. Speaker, the matter that Wandai has raised is subject to a High Court matter E138. There are several rulings on this particular issue by Justice Okwani, Aumbisharing.
That is the 500 or the 100?
They are all combined. They
are combined?
Yeah, they are all combined.
Oh.
They are all combined, Mr. Speaker. And you remember when I was in my opening remarks, I wanted some clarity on the issue of sub judice, because they are before court. Certain rulings in particular, which I think will be important, on that particular area of the forgery, the judge has properly pronounced herself on this matter and have been exonerated. But the other issues relating to the net worth of this company and whatever it is are still before court. And
so only make reference to the matter that has been concluded by the court. The others remain contested between you and your accusers.
Yes.
Yes.
So it is not true, Mr. Speaker, that I did any forgeries. And in fact, this was also a situation where the DCI was ending the complainant, the person is referring to take away my investment in this particular company. And Mr. Speaker, when I got arrested, I went to court through a constitutional petition and to stop the prosecution, my prosecution on that matter, without the DCI and the DPP properly putting into context my complaint in this matter, because even in this case, Mr. Speaker, I was the complainant because my company had been taken away by fraudsters. And in the course of investigations and the DCI and other agents and found a way to deal with me, then I was also turned again to be the villain. Mr. Speaker, on the last page of this judgment, which I was going to share, on paragraph 119, because the DCI had completely refused to investigate my complaints in the wisdom of Justice H.I. Ngundu, and directed as follows. Having found that the second respondent did not fully act or investigate the petitioner's complaint launched with him, I direct him to act on the same and forward his findings to the first respondent within 19 days. During the 19 days, the first and second respondents shall not charge or arrest the petitioners. Save for the above, then I find no merit in this allegation. Mr. Speaker, I want to share, because this document, and goes to that, is to, I'm bringing this to demonstrate and to show that even when people read or questions are raised, Mr. Speaker, the criminal justice system was somehow are not willing to listen to my complaints, and I am just waiting for the appropriate time. So I'll give this one.
Yes,
to share with the committee.
Chairman, I'm seated next to the nominee. I'm requesting that so that we don't go into a serious health crisis, tell him to breathe normal. He looks nervous. Tell him just to say, I'm hearing a lot of since here.
And Walinduri, are you nervous?
No, I am not. I am not, Mr. Speaker.
You are not nervous.
I'm not. How would I be nervous? These are my colleagues. We've been around together for a long time.
Can you, clerk, get the document and the reference, make copies and circulate? Go on, Linturi. You know we are almost halfway. your time, and we are still skirting around two issues.
No, tumefika hapo. Okay.
Make progress, Honorable Inturi. Honorable Wandai put it to you that you forged documents to obtain two loans, 500 million, 100 million. Your retort is that you didn't, and you have given a document to buttress that, right?
Yes, I have.
Go to the next issue.
I'm trying to get another ruling from Justice Okwani, where...
on the same issue?
On the same issue.
Okay.
Because this was a constitutional petition that stopped my arrest, and the
Yes.
finding of the judge was this year did not investigate this matter. The other one is where the judge has clearly pronounced herself on the issues of the forgeries that he's alleging, he's talking about.
So did the court say you forged or you didn't?
I did not.
Okay.
Yes.
Just give the ruling. Just give the documents. The clerks will run through and assist the members so that we make progress.
Can I ask?
Point of information, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Yes, you've got 90 minutes. You've spent 40 minutes explaining all sorts of cases. Just say, I was not charged on this one. This is the decision, and here is the judgment, and then we'll be able to look at it when we retreat. And also, Honourable, through the Speaker, if he's guilty of anything, it will catch up with him even if he's minister. So I think for now, let him explain to us. Let's focus on, I want you to tell me what you're going to do as Minister of Agriculture. I want to know if you're qualified to be Minister of Agriculture. I want to know that you're going to transform the agriculture industry in Kenya. That's more urgent. The other items are before other competent institutions.
Chairman.
Chair.
Chairman.
Yes.
Ikaria. I totally agree with Deputy Speaker and your the Vice Chair of this committee. If we continue like this, and as you had alluded to that when you started speaking, is that almost half the time is gone. And what we really want is to know, much as this is part of what we are supposed to be looking into through this committee, but I think it is also important that we also consider on other matters, as Sholei has indicated, so that we can be able to see the suitability of the candidate, or mostly on matters to do with agriculture. As I also agree that what is going on is also part of what we are. But at least, as she says, this is the case, this was a judgment, pass it, without stories, again, because it's going to really give us...
Ferdinand?
Thank
you. Nturi is a friend of mine, I want to declare that, but given that Chair, and he has confessed himself publicly, that he has over 35 cases, and is tired of these cases. We are looking for somebody who is free, and that means that, Nturi, you may not have the time and the energy, but they'll keep on coming up to do what we want you to do. Tell us how you're going to, with the 35 cases, it's too much. And you have said yourself, you want to get rid of this, so can you continue working?
Honourable members, I don't want it to be a free-for-all. Because we have had a very good sequential process of interrogating nominees. Honourable Nduri, what you need to do, this is not a trial court. Right. We are not going to establish whether you attempted to rape or not, whether it has been withdrawn or not, whether you are framed or not. The question was put to you by the Honourable Wandai on the rape charges. You have given us documents of withdrawal. This committee will not inquire into exactly what happened. We have a court document. He asked you if you forged documents to secure 2 loans. You have said you didn't. And you have given us documents. Move on to other questions that were asked of you. so that we can make progress.
To the university issue, then we can.
Then you asked about the university, and you are supposed to have uttered a degree from India. You have put only one degree from the University of Nairobi. And he alleged that you had running arguments with the same university about the same degree. Yeah, if you can answer that, then we can move on to other questions that the Deputy Speaker asked you, and give other members an opportunity also to.
Speaker, although I didn't want to disrupt the proceedings, but
yes.
I want to pick from where you said, let us advise our colleague, Honorable Njuri is our colleague, that we are not in court, Honorable Speaker, where you can produce all those details and volumes. Maybe he's gotten used to that 35 cases and court. This is just a vetting process. Just bullet, and we proceed.
To the extent that they touch on his integrity, he is at liberty and is obliged to furnish us with documentation that you look at. But as to his innocence or otherwise, there's another agency that can deal with that. We can make inferences on these issues at the end, but we have no capacity to say whether he's guilty of this or not.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Dawood.
If you allow me to comment, I think we are probably taking the nominee a little too far. If we ask him a question, he replies, let him give us those documents after the sitting, give it to the clerks. But in a matter of 35 cases, Honorable Wanyonyi is talking about, that is neither here, neither there. He just mentioned it.
It is actually the nominee himself who has walked too far.
He has just said that.
Yes.
That is an
and I had told him that to restrict your answers to the questions as they are being asked. And you'll see we'll move very smoothly. So if you finished with Honorable, and I talk about the degrees, come to Honorable Sholei, then I give another batch of colleagues to raise issues. We have about 20 of us, each one itching to ask you something. You know, agriculture is the bedrock of every lively activity of every individual in this country. Those who don't farm still eat what farmers farm.
Chair, can I interject?
Mukami.
I was wondering, because we already have one degree and we can see it here, and we have other important matters, we can allow to tackle the other questions, and then he'll give that other document later.
No, the question was asked, he has to answer it.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, let me answer this question. Mr. Speaker, I'll give you a document which you'll be able to peruse as asked, and the issue that was an issue with the University of Nairobi. And when my studies were discontinued, were that I was doing my Masters of Law. This is not the undergraduate course I was doing, and I had been admitted to pursue a Masters of Law. And Mr. Speaker, I was registered that time.
Let me make it very easy for you.
Yes.
Honorable Inturi.
Yes.
Do you have any dispute with the University of Nairobi that is alive over your LLB degree?
None, Mr. Speaker.
That is it. Number two, have you ever uttered anywhere a degree from India?
No, Mr.
Do you have a degree from India?
And Mr. Speaker, yes. And the documents are here to support that. This matter has been canvassed in court in 2 cases, in 3 cases actually, in 2017. There are own documents here. And India. I will not be able to mention on that because the same matter again has been raised. The hearing for this case is on 4th of November.
Issues around your Indian degree.
Yes.
Hold on. Issues around your Indian degree are in court.
Yes.
Is that the reason why you did not attach that disputed Indian degree?
That is not really, Mr. Speaker. It's also because the documents that I attached are the documents I'm able to access. One of the issues where it is...
That's exactly what I'm asking you.
that
you attached the Kenyan degree from the University of Nairobi because it has no issues.
It doesn't have issues.
The matter rests there. Answer other questions.
Speaker, how does it rest, really? When he has said that he has got an Indian degree, the certificate must be with him. The degree certificate must be with him somewhere.
He says,
yes,
if I got him right, he has an Indian degree. It has issues around it. The issues are in court. They are active and therefore sub judice. And we are not here to inquire into his degrees. In any case, the possession of a degree is not a requirement for him to be a minister. But if he has a disputed degree and the degree is found invalid, it goes down to his integrity. Yes.
Yes.
But the only issue that is available to you to pursue.
That's what I'm pursuing, actually. The issue of integrity.
Question, a very clear question, and I want a very clear answer so that we make progress.
Yes. The issue is, we wanted the Honorable Linturi to confirm if he ever held a degree from an Indian university. He has said yes. And I'm asking, can we see a copy of that degree certificate? I am being told we can't see it because the matter is in court. That's what I'm finding very difficult, yes.
Mr. Speaker, you know, I also explained the circumstances in which I find myself and why even other certificates are not there. There is also a court order here that bars me from accessing my own house, where on documents...
Mr. Speaker, I give up.
Yeah, it is here. That's why I said that in many cases, Mr. Speaker. And if I may read, this training the respondent...
Hold on, let him respond.
So, Mr. Speaker, even as I sit here, there are documents, my titles, my logbooks, my everything I can't access because there is a bar.
Honorable Linturi, there is an article written by Lord Denning called "The Witness Who Talked Too Much." If you have an Indian degree, say yes. If you don't have it here, say you don't. The reason you don't have it, you are barred from accessing your premises where it is. We leave it there.
Yeah, I don't have it here.
Yes.
Yes.
You are just volunteering unhelpful information.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me go through Shirley's questions.
Those are the questions by the Deputy
Speaker. That's what I want to get to.
Yes.
And, but this document is important for you. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Let me get to the
Honorable Speaker, I'm beginning to think that the candidate is actually avoiding to explain to us how you're going to transform the agriculture industry in Kenya.
Let me get there.
Because you're spending way too much time on the other questions that are not even relevant to this particular docket.
But
Mr. Speaker,
I had asked a point of
going to Mbo's Sholei's question that the 25-year-old boy asked. I want to agree with her that agriculture, Mr. Speaker, contributes to almost 60% of our GDP. And to transform this country, we require to seriously invest in agriculture. To change this country and to make sure that each one of us as Kenyans is comfortable, we need to re-engineer our ways in how we conduct ourselves in the field of agriculture. Mr. Speaker, and when I speak about agriculture, is in horticulture, in apiculture, in livestock and everything else. So, Mr. Speaker, first of all, what I want to do, considering that agriculture is an evolved function, agriculture, where I will see it, if approved by you as a minister, will basically more deal with the issue of policy. Crop husbandry is in the domain of our county governments. The first thing I want to do is to have a serious sitting with the governors, and possibly, because I believe in teamwork, I believe in building proper networks, have also a meeting with their CEC's agriculture to see how together we can be able to transform agriculture. Mr. Speaker, I know we have a problem in this country. I know the youth can easily be employed if we were to do our agriculture right and correctly. And I'm happy both Sholei's children is really interested in doing agriculture. But if you were to speak to very many young men and women, and whose mindset I am willing and ready to engage to change, is that some of them have taken agriculture as a form of punishment. Many of them are afraid of that, and many of them, because of failure for a guaranteed way of trying to assess what incomes or what you can be able to predictably be able to assess from a crop, have made it very difficult for many of our children to engage in it. So I want to pursue possibilities of how we will be able to encourage our young people and everybody else to get into the farms and do it. Mr. Speaker, I want to invite, including all the members of parliament here, we cannot be crying of lack of food when we are not doing it by ourselves. Before we get out there to cry, there is famine. What is it that we are doing as leaders from the family level to feed ourselves first of all? I want to ask, to call for a candid, robust discussion on how each one of us can be able to feed himself and run away from the reliance of going to markets to buy food when you are not sure where that food has come from.
The question she asked you, the Honorable Inturi, is that what are your plans to ensure that farming becomes more profitable and farmers are assured of a predictable income?
Mr. Speaker.
Then combine that with a question from Ichungwa that your docket is the highest in employment multiplier effect. What are you going to do to ensure that agriculture becomes a major job creation engagement? Ichungwa, that was your question, right? Yes. And how you'll dismantle milk cartels in the sector. Take a minute to answer those three questions.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, we now have to see on how we can hand value to our agricultural products. Those that are doing, for example, dairy, we must know how we can be able to engage them from their own farms, from an area where probably we can be able to bring in farmers to pull together. See, for example, collect enough milk, see how we can have processors that can be able to hand value to our milk so that we're able to produce other other products from processed milk. That we will be able to hand value. Farmers may be able to get good return from their investments in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, if we were to be able to seriously subsidize on farm inputs, fertilizer, since we will be able to bring the cost of production of our food, our food from whatever cost it is, because government would have taken some bit of cost in by providing subsidies. That we may be able to encourage the farmer to create and see more value from his produce, from whatever he does on a daily basis. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that if we were to make sure that there is good return, and if we were really to ensure that once a farmer is able to predict what price he may be able to get from the market, then we'll be able to encourage. I want to, Mr. Speaker, to adopt the technology so that I can be able to link markets. And from a platform, when we are sitting by application of e-technology, one can be able to check and know if I'm doing carrots and I'm in Meru or I'm in Washingishu, what is the going price of a kilo of carrots in Kisumu, in Nairobi, and whichever other market. So that way, one may be able to take his produce on how, or to any market that will give him the highest return. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to discuss with the county governments to implement the warehouse receipt system. The warehouse receipt system, Mr. Speaker, if implemented, we will be able to hold our food and our produce and be able to sell when markets or the prices of food are good enough for return of investment. Ichungwa raised a question on how we will be able to deal with the cartels in the ministry, and we intend to dismantle them. Mr. Speaker, I also want to say that I will want to ensure that when I get to the ministry with your approval, God willing, then I want to have a Kenya Farmers database. The Kenya Farmers database will be able to show me or tell me how many farmers do we have that are doing milk, that are doing cabbage, that are doing maize, or whatever type of a crop that there is. And that way, even when we get to making subsidies to the farmer, then we can, with precision, say which farmer is going to benefit from what subsidy, whether it's seed, whether it's fertilizer, and that we also would require an e-voucher system so that in partnership with our National Cereals and Produce Board or agrovets, we can be able to make sure that person that really benefits from the subsidies that we'll be giving as government are the really people that require that particular support. To increase productivity, Mr. Speaker, and for value, we also may have to go an extra mile to educate our farmers on what best crop grows where. And with that kind of data, then we will be able to maximize on productivity and avail information to our farmers so that you do not plant barley in an area that requires you to plant rice. Or if you just wake up in Meru and decide how to plant maize here, yet Meru cannot do very well in that particular ecological zone. So getting information to farmers will be critical. Moving along with them will be very important, and customer education and training will be very critical if we really have to produce maximally and farmers get really value of their produce. Mr. Speaker, to deal with cartels, as Ichungwa said, these cartels are the same, are the cartels that when you give subsidies of fertilizer, they wait for the fertilizer, buy it, store, repack, and then sell those at the exorbitant prices. We will require, Mr. Speaker, to really map out or be able to get the numbers that are supposed to benefit from these subsidies, and this I intend to use an e-platform where we will have a record of all the farmers that we are talking about, so that the final beneficiaries of our subsidies, our knowledge of the information that we want to disseminate as a ministry, then go to the right people.
Thank you. I'll take 5. So note them. and answer them. And this time, let's be conscious with time. And members, one question each. Junet, Owen Bayer, Robert Mbui, Ferdinand Wanyonyi, Murugara. Everybody will have a chance.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I wanted to ask the nominee, when he was giving the story of his life, how he went through, whether he has ever been to a seminary. Whether you have been enrolled to a seminary one time, but more importantly, what plan do you have to the collapsed sugar industry, like Moroni, Chemeil, Sony, Mumias, and Nzoia companies? How do you intend to revive them?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Speaker. The President, in his wisdom, has separated the Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation. But we also know that statistics show that rain-fed agriculture has failed this country, and irrigation is the way to go to spur agriculture. But as it stands now, if approved by this committee, you'll be Minister for Agriculture, but the docket for irrigation, for which you will depend on largely to produce food, is in another ministry. How do you intend to sync that so that your hands are not tied? Given that the President in his speech said that we intend to increase irrigation to 1.4 million in 3 years. How would you reconcile that? Will your hands be tied such that you'll not produce food because you'll say irrigation is not in your hands? And also you find that there are some high productive areas in this country that have not been looked at positively by the previous regimes. Farming in coconut, in cashew nut, in Biksa at the coast has not been given the due attention that it is supposed to have. And areas like coast have not been helping in growing the GDP in this country. And yet there's high potential in those areas. Look at these two questions, nominee. How do you work in the Ministry of Agriculture to support this country to grow the GDP in agriculture? Thank you.
Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. You know, Kenya is grappling with the drought, and a lot of Kenyans are going hungry now. So this is an extremely important docket, because the person who holds that docket has to deal with the issue of food security and ensure that Kenyans don't starve to death. Now, I want to, and you know, Chair, the issue of integrity is also critical in helping us determine the suitability of a candidate to any office. Now, in the 11th Parliament that I served with the Honourable nominee here, while he was serving as MP for Igembe South, the nominee presented a petition to members of Parliament to sign for him so that he could remove the then CS for devolution on the scandal that was rocking this country of about 1.9 billion of NYS. And members of Parliament did sign that petition. Mr. Speaker, I was one of them because he convinced me, and there were really weighty issues. But on the day that this petition was to be read on the floor of the House, the nominee did not show up, and did not show up for quite a while after that. And when he resurfaced, that issue seemed to have been put under the carpet. Maybe because we do not want a CS that might also abandon farmers. Maybe he can tell us why he abandoned members of Parliament.
Ferdinand.
I'm laughing kidogo because I was also in that Parliament, but I didn't know those details. Mheshimiwa, you talked about the warehouse receipts, and I think you don't understand the concept. I want to give you the light on the warehousing receipts. Is where the farmer takes the goods to the warehouse and is given a title deed for whatever quantity equivalent to the value that you have taken. Then from there you can use a title deed to do business, to do other business. That concept, actually, I am one of those that worked on it from India. So my question is, and you seem to know something about it, what are you going to do to increase, to open up more warehouse and receipt outlets in the country to be able to do business, so that the people can be able to take their goods to the warehouse, get the receipts, and do business. Thank you.
Wakili.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nominee, drought is ravaging the country. And the reason why Kenyans are suffering is due to the fact that we do not have a good policy on food security. Matters food are governed by the Agriculture and the Food Act, which vests execution in the Agriculture and the Food Authority. We've been told recently, especially by your predecessor, that the ministry contemplates repealing the Agriculture and the Food Act and also abolish the authority so that it can deal with individual crops instead of dealing with crops lumped together for purposes of production, marketing, and distribution. In your own estimation, is that a good idea for the country? And is it going to serve us more positively, or we are digging ourselves into a grave as far as food is concerned?
Thank you. You can answer those 5.
Thank you, Chairman. Mheshimiwa Junet, I asked about the revival of the sugar industry, and I think that's a good question coming from him because it comes from that side. Mr. Speaker, I think the sugar industry plays or employs very many people, and is a source of employment to our young people and others that work from that particular end. And when I interacted with the sugar companies when I was the chairman of public investment, most of these sugar companies were making losses. I think it is the time, Mr. Speaker, I think we really require a serious discussion, because the investment of government in a number of these sugar industries is huge. We've had bailouts by government to these sugar companies a number of times, and we are required to check on whether there is real return on the money that government invests in them, and then open a candid, robust discussion with all stakeholders in trying to understand how best we can revive the sugar industry. Mr. Speaker and Chairman, I would ask Junet to become part of this discussion, because he may understand this area better, but I am told or hear that there has been discussions on how to privatize these companies for maximum productivity and for profitability. If that is the direction we may end up going, then Mr. Speaker, and since all stakeholders who will be involved, and if we are to go that way, of course, Parliament will be involved, then at a personal level, I wouldn't have any problem, because I will not be there to dictate. I will only be guiding the process, and it will be all inclusive, all consultative, so that we have one common ground on how we need to revive this important sector in our economy. Mr. Speaker, I think when asked how I will be able to produce food when the irrigation docket is not in my domain, and I want to say that government works collectively. I am sure, and we cannot succeed without water, want to grow food without water. And anybody that cared to listen to my impulse's speech yesterday during the Mashujandi celebrations, he has offered or inviting people to partner to come up with around 100 dams that will be able to assist us in providing water for irrigation. I want and I believe that because cabinet decisions are collective, I will personally be able to speak to my sister Alice Wame because she is in that particular docket, and because we must all deliver as government on how we can break those perceived barriers, if any, so that at least together we can be able to grow food, together we can build the synergy and ensure that our country is food secure, because our reliance on food, our rain-fed agriculture, Mr. Speaker, is not anything that we can really rely on. An interesting question was also raised by my good friend Mheshimiwa Amboi on my integrity, or whether I will run away and leave the farmers or leave the farmers alone. Mr. Speaker, even as we discuss that issue, I think for those that have been bunge with me, because I think we've served the longest, you have served the longest in the House, and I think I'm the second longest serving. I think my record also speaks for itself in view of the committees that I chaired and the recommendations I've done as a committee, which went to the extent of indicting ministers when we sat in the same house as ministers. And the latest being my investigation committee that I chaired, investigating the possible loss of money from the Ministry of Education by the acquisition of the Ruaraka land where the country lost 1.5 billion. I don't waver. I am incorruptible. You can only persuade me, Mr. Speaker. So to get to the withdrawal of this particular matter, because that matter, Mr. Speaker, it is true and a lot of support in the House. And Mr. Speaker, those that were in that parliament, when all this happened, I came to the chamber and rose on a point of order and a personal statements. And I documented every step that took place, what went on, who called who, where that letter was signed from, and that matter resent. Unless if you allow, Mr. Speaker, I can mention. You know, Mr. Speaker, this country, you allow me to explain the circumstances.
Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, for those that have never known, you see, when a gun is put on your head, and you understand when you have a CEO who is almost a terrorist, then there are many people that cannot withstand the pressure, the intimidation, and the threats that exist. I can tell you the letter to withdraw was signed.
To withdraw the motion?
Yes. Was drafted by one J. Muturi. The letter I was asked to sign, Njomo called, Speaker Muturi was called from somewhere. He was along, I think in Kilimani, was told, go back to the house, there is a letter that's is being brought to withdraw that motion. Jomo Gichaka, past 8 o'clock, delivered the letter to the then Speaker, J. Muturi. Those are the circumstances that I found myself in, and you know.
You signed the letter?
Mr. Speaker, yes.
Point of order, Honorable
yes.
Speaker. Point of order.
Yes, that's it.
Honorable
and the President
Speaker,
was there then. So, Mr. Speaker, that is the situation, that is the condition. And that is from that time when my relationship and him went sour. Because that thing has really tormented me. I've spoken about it, but members continue asking. They may not have known, just like all these others were all organized and planned by his agencies. Lastly, Mr. Speaker.
The question from Ferdinand and Murugara.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the warehouse system, receipt system was passed. It's a law that is in this country. It's supposed to be implemented by the county governments. It is the county government that is supposed to license warehouses. And I think that we will not succeed if we do not work very closely with the county governments. And I will deliberately and intentionally work very closely with the governors. I even want to, I will make proposing laws to even operationalize this more, Mr. Speaker, because I believe food security cannot be a function of the national government alone. If crop husbandry is in the hands of the governors must participate in ensuring that Kenya is food secure. Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage and I want to propose to the governors when we sit down, and by use of this system, because this system, unless my understanding is different from yours, is where the licensed warehouse will be able to mop up the produce in those particular areas. And because I am even told this system is a serious support from some donors and other financial institutions, where if you have a problem, you may be able to be paid up to a certain percentage of the value of your crop. That way, you address your immediate financial needs, as when then the men and women in charge of houses are looking for good prices for that produce. This way, if we were to, the county governments were to do it professionally and organized in a good manner, then we will be able to ensure that in whatever part of this country, at least the amount of food held in our stores or in our houses are clearly known. And this way, Mr. Speaker, you can also encourage commodity exchange through these warehouses, so that if, for example, you do not have money and you have tomatoes, the other one has cabbages, and that's what you want, you can always agree on how to deal with it. So I want to ensure in the participation of governance, I also create county food reserves, so that the county food reserves will be able, from when there is need for immediate address in terms of our food solutions that we may have within the counties, then the counties can be able to come in and support. So I want to assure you, Mr. Wanyonyi, we'll get a framework on how we can do it. In any case, just like I'm saying, this cannot be done without legislation. We will be getting back to you. We will be asking you to kindly support us in this particular matter.
Mr. Chairman. No, I wanted to make a clarification.
Yes.
If you allow me to.
Yes.
This, let me tell you that as I'm talking, this Parliament sent some people to South Africa. We saw how it's operating. The Ministry of Agriculture, for our case, will have a department, and already have a department, dealing with the warehousing system. In fact, as I'm talking, the outgoing minister opened a warehousing system in Kitale, which I witnessed, and I think 2 other places. So just tell us that if you are given the opportunity, you'll be able to come up, you'll be able to enforce the already established system, so that can be able to move, as you are saying. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I am willing and ready, if approved, to engage. And those systems that are functional.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't want to disturb. I wanted to wait for him to finish. But when Wanyonyi did, I thought maybe at this point I need to clarify that on the question I had asked, and this has to go on record, Chair, that on the day that this petition was to be presented to Parliament, it was not withdrawn, Mr. Speaker. It was on the order paper. But what happened is that the nominee did not show up. So that is a report that was in the House. That is what is unanswered. It was called out, and he wasn't there to move it. So I wanted that to be clear, so that, for the record. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Speaker, I am not trying to defend myself, but he knows at what time, in most cases, the under papers are out. I've seen the Speaker was called very late in the night, and the letter was taken to him. So I was not in charge of the Secretariat of Parliament or how that got it there, but that is the truth. And I can always also go back to check the answer and what I recorded that particular time.
Point of order, Chair.
Speaker Murugara.
Yes, Mishi.
Point of order, Chair. Honorable Chair. Does that insinuate that the nominee is weak and cannot withstand political pressure?
If Nje Muturi can bully you to sign a letter.
Not by Nje.
Chair, Chair,
Mr. Speaker.
Maybe, Chair, not to interrupt Linturi, but may I also make disclosure that it is, in actual fact, myself who got the Honorable Linturi to Jacaranda Hotel, if he remembers. And the circumstances then, if you know the kind of president we were dealing with, when Linturi tells you when you have a gun over your head, you really have no choices to make. And it is indeed true that letter was typed by Nje Muturi in the business center of Jacaranda Hotel. And I was then the vice chair of the Public Investments Committee, and I was directed by none other than President Uhuru Kenyatta to ship the Honorable Linturi out of this country in a trip that we were going to Turkey that weekend.
So you connived into undermining Linturi's integrity?
We did not connive, Honorable Speaker. And that's what I'm saying. It may not be a reflection of the Honorable Linturi.
Anyway, let's go on with other issues.
Or strength.
I'll now give the floor to Murugara. We have 6 minutes of your allotted time.
Mr. Murugara asked whether I have intentions of disbanding AFA. Yeah, so just like I've said before, AFA is a creature of an act of parliament. And Mr. Speaker, a minister or a cabinet secretary has no power to amend or to do any other form of changes to any act of parliament. Parliament must be involved. I have not gotten there yet. I have not personally interacted with institutions that fall under AFA, and I will not be fair to say whether AFA is living to its mandate or not. But in your wisdom, if it's the wisdom of this committee that you recommend me serve in that docket, then one of the first things I'll be doing is to engage AFA and other stakeholders to understand really how we can either transform that institution, whether it's living up to its mandate. But just like when I was trying to inquire, I know it has some bit of challenges because I'm told it has no bond. Maybe probably it has remained dysfunctional either for strategically or for any other reason, I do not know. But I will try to inquire and see how best we can be able to address the issues that touch on the mandate of AFA, and I will be involving the members of parliament kindly.
Posing Daud Mishi Koech Amisi.
Thank you, Speaker.
Question each. We have 4 minutes.
Speaker, from where I come from, it is argued that you don't milk a stone, you only milk a cow. And I want to be on record, Speaker, because we are not making, Chair, because we are not making any determination now, so that it's known by the time we are going to make our determination that the nominee is trying to use court to gag the committee from getting issues of integrity on him, Speaker. That is very critical. And to exit my question, therefore, for him is, there are 70% of this country is arid and semi-arid, or thereabout. And in those areas, they keep animals, cows, camels, goats, and so on. When it comes to the Ministry of Agriculture, it's about crops most of the time. Should you get an opportunity, Honorable Linturi, what new thing will you bring to this 70% people living in 70% of our country in terms of recognizing cows, camels, goats as assets, as investment, so that, Honorable Chair, they can be collateral. Somebody can go to bank and get some assistance. We are keeping things which don't help us, Honorable Chair, until when they are sold or they are slaughtered. So what will Honorable Linturi bring that is new, that will give hope to this 70% of the people living in this country? I thank you.
Daud.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations, Honorable Mithika. And I thank the President for nominating you. My question is, you stood for election as a governor, as you have already said, and you got more than about 190,000 votes, and that was good. You had a manifesto as a governor, and there is a manifesto of Kenya Kwanza. Could you probably tell us the cross-cutting issues between your manifesto and Kenya Kwanza, and if there were variances in your manifesto and Kenya Kwanza? You have said you will work with the governors. Will you work with our governor, Meru governor, in doing whatever you're going to be doing if you are put in this place? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, just before my question, I just want to add on what the nominee has just answered. Honorable Junaid's question in terms of reviving the sugarcane industry. I also want to add that you also need to put in your plans the issue of cashew nuts, bixa, and coconut industry, so that it just don't remain as a rhetoric during campaigns, but a real action to be done to ensure that we have this kind of industry. And my question would be, during Mashujaa Day yesterday, His Excellency the President has talked about putting up a fertilizer plant, East Africa Community Fertilizer Plant. Also talked a lot on subsidies on crops and even farming equipment. But more so, we have had little in terms of livestock and fish farming. What plans do you have as KK government to ensure that we also integrate these other two sectors in terms of agriculture? Thank you.
Thank you. Coach?
I will be very quick. Honorable Linturi, drought is ravaging this country. More than 4 million Kenyans are staring at starvation. Crops are perishing. Livestock is dying. What is your plan in future to cushion farmers from such drought? And number two, what is the KK plan to make sure that we do not necessarily have to, in future, just stare at farmers lose animals and crops? So what will be the plan to cushion farmers on such?
Do I, Speaker, do I
Chair,
answer?
I think I was to ask another.
Those are 5.
No, they are not 5. I gave to 5 members: Posing, Daud, Mishi, Koech, now Amisi.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. You know, once a German architect once said that the details are the devil is in the details. And when you are asked chronologically to indicate the education records and the employment records, of course, it needs to have time to each one of the events. But there seems to be a gap between the time you finished Igembe Boys Secondary and becoming a director of 5 companies. Due to an attachment, internship, worked in any one of our firms around before becoming a director. And you know, the hustlers are also watching how to learn from public officers how to reach where they are. So we could also see the proper chronological occurrence of your education up to the working. And the 5 companies, are they active? Then how will you manage the docket of agriculture, which is the backbone of our economy, while you are still a director of 5 huge companies? Thank you.
Quickly answer those 5.
Mr. Speaker, first let me answer a question raised by Kosing, and I want to put it clearly that I don't use courts to Ngaka committee. When you look at when those orders were issued, Chair.
That was just a side comment. Answer the real questions.
I want to ensure that I have a livestock master plan to take care of the pocots, to take care of the pastoralists, be able to identify how many goats, how many cows, how many chicken that we have, Mr. Speaker. And you realize Kenya, I think is importing meat, yet we have the third largest ant in Africa. I am going, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that progressively we will be able to see how we can manage our arable land, and so that we are able, because the problem that we have majorly with the pastoralists is pasture. I want to introduce something I want to call saline agriculture, where we will be able to tap the waters, like in Turkana, because water is saline, and be able to grow pasture and grass can grow there. There is no land that cannot be able to be utilized to support our livestock, because that is the major problem that you have in feeding the livestock. Mr. Speaker, I want to ensure for them to have value, and because abattoirs and just like I said, the issues to do with livestock, also with the county governments, I know there are those feedlots that we can be able, in conjunction with the 21 harried areas governors, to see how we can organize the livestock sector so that they have pasture, water for their cows. But I know, and this answer will have to come from them because they are pastoralists, how we'll be able to keep the animals together, because even when these pastoralists or animals are moving from one place to another, there is a lot of loss of weight and minerals, and that is why you realize their livestock are not able to feed or to fetch so much money. So I will be engaging you. I'm not a pastoralist. I'm willing to listen, come up with ideas, and everybody else, because that's my duty, to address the problems that Kenyans have through consultation and advice. So I'm open-minded. My policy is open. Mr. Speaker, the question Rahim asked whether I will implement my manifesto. My manifesto died when I lost the position of governor in Meru. But I want to tell you that manifesto borrowed seriously from the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, because we are in those consultative meetings, and I wanted to align my thoughts and ideas along the Kenya Kwanza plan to address the problems of our people in Meru, because I would not have done it alone without consultation, without working closely with the national government. So whatever we talked about and whatever is in the Kenya Kwanza government manifesto is what going to plan. That's the campaign I'm going to lead to espouse on government policy and agenda for us to be able to serve this country, and in a manner that is so inclusive. Mr. Koech, you talked about drought ravaging the country. It is true that there is drought, but allow me to say that we have, and people are almost losing lives because of lack of food. We'll have immediate, medium-term and long-term plans on how to can deal with this situation. And one of the things that I think and the government has already started doing is the provision of relief food to those people that are quite vulnerable. It may not, I would not want it to be a thing that we must really be happy about. Let it be, food relief must be a last resort. And irrigation, just like the President said yesterday, is something we'll have to ensure that any irrigatable land that is available for farming, then we put it into agriculture. I want to persuade the government or the cabinet to also be able to come to agree, because we have so many pieces of land that are owned by government. You realize it's a shame when you find that the prison service is buying food or money is allocated to buy food, yet there are a lot of labor force and the very big tracts of land lying without any agricultural activity. So I'll be pleading for government to find it or to give a directive or a policy on how we can utilize government land institutions that have big land for use for agriculture. Our universities, those research institutions, how we can apply those pieces of land for agriculture and even for training, knowledge transfer to our young people who want to do agriculture. Then of course, agroforestry will be very important. Then how to engage everyone else to deal with the effects of climate change. I will have to talk with my counterpart in the Ministry of Education, so that we also revive again the 4K clubs in our schools. I don't know how they ended dying because as our children grow up, then they're able to know, to adopt an idea that we must start sending ourselves from the school and be able to appreciate how important agriculture is. Mr. Amisi, you asked about the flow. That was completely deliberate, because the documents that I've given out here, because people that are alleging, I don't want to give them an opportunity to prove, give them opportunity to prove their case. It is their business to prove what they are saying. So by so doing and understanding the powers of this committee and the correctness of the information that you give them, because it's also binding, I didn't want to assist them prove their own case. And just like I think both said, if there is anything that is not correct, it's a matter of time. But I want to say that whatever I am giving out here is true to the best of my knowledge.
Honorable members, we have so far done, just hold your cards. We've done 2 hours